Hello, time for Chapter 3 of The Girl Who Speaks Bear by Sophie Anderson, illustrated by Catherine Honesta and published by Osborne. Chapter 3. The Festival. The next morning, Anatoly is gone. Though I knew he would be, disappointment falls over me like a heavy leather cloak. There's a note from him on the table saying the forest called him in the night, and 2 twigs of goat willow dotted with soft silvery catkins. Mamochka shakes her head at the note, but smiles at the twigs and tucks one into a buttonhole on her coat, and I do the same with mine, and we step out into the sharp air to load up a sledge with Mamochka's supplies for the festival. Mousetrap scampers around and over me, leaping from my shoulders to my hands to the sledge and back again, sniffing all the bottles and jars and scowling at the ones filled with herbs and seeds that whisper and rattle as they move. It's fun watching him. But I can't stop thinking about Anatoly's story from last night. I keep going over the details as if looking for clues, and I keep touching my arrowhead necklace to feel its sharp edges and trembling cold. This morning it feels like there's more than a snowstorm inside it. "You do understand it was just a story, don't you?" Mamochka says, reaching up to straighten the buttons on my coat. She always knows what I'm thinking, and she always fusses with my clothes or my hair when she's concerned about me. "Of course," I nod, but I can't help wondering. What if there's truth in the story, like Anatoly said? What if Nastasia were real, and my birth mother? The thought makes my heart skip and jump like Mousetrap on the sledge. "Come on." Mamochka finishes squashing cotton grass into the crates and covers them with furs. "Let's have a hot drink before we go. I have a surprise for you, too." Her eyes sparkle with excitement and curiosity rushes through me. "Are you coming inside?" I offer my hand to Mousetrap, who is stalking, a fluffy seed head across the top of the crates. His whiskers twitch with annoyance, as if I've disturbed an important hunt. But he leaps onto my palm, scrambles up my coat and squeezes into my collar. I smile at the feel of his tiny body, soft and warm against my neck, and follow Mamochka into the house. She opens one of the drawers in her medicine mixing corner and pulls out a large brown parcel and passes it to me, beaming. I take the parcel and unwrap it, then open out the vast folds of fabric I find inside. It's a long, dark skirt. I frown at it because I like wearing my old comfy trousers. But then I notice colours dancing on the hem. I embroidered it myself. Mamochka moves a pan of smeaton onto the stove to warm up, and I look at the delicately stitched pictures more closely. There's a forest filled with creatures, and a blue mountain rising in the distance. A fiery dragon flies across a night sky, and regal bears dance in a crumbling castle overgrown with vines. A house with chicken legs sprints along a river bank, and a pack of wolves hunt beneath a full silver moon. "These are scenes from Anatoly's stories," I whisper, unable to believe in Mamochka. "So this, for me?" "I know how much his stories mean to you. That's why I made this. But I made it for you to wear today, in the village, the place where you belong, with those who love you." And she looks me in the eye. "More than anything, I want to believe that she's right." So I push away thoughts of my own story hidden somewhere in the forest, but I feel my heart stretching. Mamochka keeps staring at me, a huge smile on her face and a twinkle in her eye. "What is it?" I ask, my brow furrowed. "You've been chosen to carry winter." Mamochka throws her arms around me. I'm distracted by how they barely reach halfway, so it takes a while for her words to sink in. Every year at the festival, a big straw doll called Winter is burned to symbolise the end of winter and the coming spring. Carrying Winter to the bonfire is a real honour, usually given to one of the grown-ups who's contributed most to village life over the season. "I'm so proud of you." Mamochka pulls away from me, puts her hand over her heart. For a moment I wish Anatoly was here. I wonder if he'd have stayed and come to the festival if he'd known that I'd be carrying Winter, wearing a skirt with his stories on. And then I realise what a silly thought that is. Anatoly never comes to festivals. Go and try your skirt on. Mamochka nudges me out of the kitchen. Then we'll have this drink and we'll get going. I go to my room and change into the skirt and my favourite pair of reindeer skin boots. Anatoly made them from the softest, stretchiest leather, so they never pinch or rub. He always gives me a few pairs when he visits, some that fit and bigger ones to grow into. I make sure my arrowhead necklace is tucked safely inside my jumper, and before going downstairs I slide the wolf claw Anatoly gave me out from underneath my pillow, and I put it in my pocket. Because even though winter is only made of straw, I have the feeling I may need some extra strength today. Sasha arrives, bouncing with excitement for the festival, and we set off, hauling the loaded sledge behind us. Before we reach the bottom of the garden, Mousetrap stirs from his sleep around my neck, launches himself into the snow and scampers off towards the pines. He rarely comes to the village with me, and like Anatoly, he never comes to the festivals. I lift my collar, trying to warm the cold space he's left around my neck. The noise of traders setting up stalls rattles between the trees, and by the time we arrive at the square, musicians are tuning their instruments, and smoke is rising from steel drum barbecues. As we help Mamochka set up her stall, people fill the square until they're packed in tight as bees in a hive. I don't recognise everyone. People have sledged here from distant villages, nestled on other edges of the snow forest, to come to the festival. Squeals rise from the sledging hill, and cheers from the pole climbing contests, and laughter from the stalls selling food and drink. A snowball whizzes past Sasha's head and lands at my feet. I look up to the top of the ice fort where it was thrown from. A mischief of small children are hiding behind the battlements, giggling. Little Vanya pushes his head out. Look how many snowballs we've made, Yanka. He gestures to a toppling pile and smiles proudly. Will you be on our team for the siege game? We're defending. Me and Sasha already signed up to attack. I squish the snowball back together and throw it up to him. So you better save these for the game. Let's go sledging. Sasha punches my arm. I glance over the top of his head to Mamochka. She's serving a customer, but she winks and waves me away. Go, have some fun. Sasha leads the way across the square, weaving through crowds that part ahead of me. People always move out of my way, because I'm so big. They look at me differently, too, staring a little longer, smiling a little more stiffly. To Sasha, they just nod a greeting, but to me they say, Yanka the bear, either whispered in awe or shouted too loud. Today it's worse than ever because the visitors from distant villages haven't seen me since the last festival, and I've grown over a foot in that time. I wonder if as much space would widen around a real bear in the village, and for a moment I want to roar just to see people's reaction. But when Sasha stops to talk to some children from school, I only hang back silently, fiddling with the wolf claw in my pocket. Lilia, one of the girls my age, turns to me and smiles. I hear you're carrying Winter. I feel a flushing fleet of pride, but it disappears when I notice the sharpness in her eyes and the sting in her smile. It's strange they chose you, she continues. I don't think you've done much for the village this season. You hardly talk to anyone apart from Sasha, and you spend most of your time in the forest. And carrying Winter is a village tradition, Lilia's friend Oksana chimes in, and you weren't born in the village, were you? I've lived here nearly all my life, I shrug, pretending not to be bothered by their words, but anger prickles beneath my skin. Why do they have to remind me how different I am when it's so obvious anyway? They were probably forced to choose Yanka. Lilia waves her hand dismissively in my direction. Winter is massive this year, and they've tied her to a heavy birch pole. No one else would be strong enough to carry her. That's true, Oksana nods, and they turn away to carry on the conversation they were having before I arrived. They're just jealous, Polina, another girl from school, mouths behind their backs. I return her smile. Polina is always nice to me, though she's not really a friend. Like Lilia said, I don't spend enough time talking to anyone in the village to make friends. I only grew so close to Sasha because we live next door to each other. It's a relief when Sasha finishes talking and we move away from the others onto the sledging hill. I pick the strongest, sturdiest looking sledge from the jumble at the bottom and I drag it up the steep slope. Sitting at the top, high above the village square, the forest at my back and the great frozen river stretching all the way to the horizon, I take a long, cool breath, and my muscles relax. "Race you!" Sasha shouts and shoots off ahead of me. I lean back on the sledge, pull tight on the rope and speed down the hill. For a moment my whole body lifts into the air. I gasp in a cloud of ice, and then I bump back onto the track, jolting my heart into my throat. I overtake Sasha and skid to a halt in a flurry of snow. I rise to my feet, legs shaking, skin tingling, hot and cold, and a huge smile making my cheeks ache. Sasha swooshes into powdery snow next to me and rolls off his sledge, laughing. "No one else races like you, Yanka. You're fearless." He scrambles to his feet and grins. "Again?" I nod. Even though I've grown taller than Sasha this winter, as we tramp back up the slope, I feel like we still fit together somehow. We race down the hill, over and over, until my lungs are raw and my legs burning from dragging the sledge back up. And then a drum roll sounds, quietly at first, building until it reverberates like thunder around the square. Sasha and I abandon our sledges and join the crowds moving towards the stage. My skin tingles with excitement, because the festival show is about to begin. That's the end of chapter 3. So I'll say goodbye, look after yourselves, be good, and I'll see you soon for chapter 4.